Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Blues Talk, where again John, Dave, and myself are going to look back over our disappointing performance in the semi-final against Scarlets, and of course also look back at Munster's victory against the Ospreys in the other semi. So, boys, that's the end of the season, unfortunately, and it went out in a bit of a whimper.
Well, describing it as unfortunate or disappointing is a bit like describing the Titanic as a bit of a prang. It was. I think it was. I can't remember a worse Leinster result since Casper in 2008. I think it was. We went out there. We played the wrong tactics. Whatever tactics we were playing, we didn't execute anyway. And I think it was just the latest in a pattern of games where Leinster teams that win competitions win big games away from home, and they win the games that you might not think are important, but that pay it on down the road. And Leinster lost those games this season, and that's why Leinster aren't going to win anything this season.
Yeah, well, they're obviously not going to win anything this season. You have to give the Scarlets a lot of credit. They never looked like they were going to lose that game. They just had that determination in them. You could see it. Every ball that we mainly dropped, every ball that was dropped or came out of a ruck,
And
they were
the
on it
29
first.
times we gave them the ball.
They were on it first. They took it. They were to win with 14 men for 40 minutes in the RDS. No matter how badly you say Leinster are playing, is a great achievement. And hats off to them. They stuck to their job. They had us sussed. Their tactics were good. Their fight, their mindset was absolutely impeccable. And yeah, we were shite, but we were made to be shite as well.
Yeah,
There's
but
an element of them.
at the other end of it, John, if you're a team that considers itself a team that is capable of winning a Pro 12 or a team that's capable of winning a Heineken Cup, to lose at home to 14 men just isn't acceptable. I mean, it just isn't.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter how good the opposition
Absolutely.
are. It's just not acceptable.
And
totally agree.
they scored their 3 tries off 2 scrums and a line out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that they were doing miraculous things with the ball.
No, it was,
We were
they were short on the miracles.
We were shoddy in defence, and they were practically impenetrable in defence. We
were also clueless in attack. I mean, I was sitting on the same side as Cubby was standing on the wing, which is an odd tactic. They didn't put him in the scrums except on their put-in, and they had him out in the wing. All they do is kick the ball behind him. He's about 2'6", and Adam Byrne bearing down him, he wouldn't have had a clue what to do under the high ball.
That's the tactical ineptitude I was talking
We
about.
didn't kick across to that wing at all, as far as I could see. We certainly didn't do it successfully. We had a whole of the second half to do that. The game was really there for us if we want. If we'd have been up for it, and that was the main problem. We weren't up for it.
Would you say that some of the players are jaded? I don't know. Like Sexton just didn't look on the money. He kicked the ball into touch twice, straight out.
Sexton should have been off after about 20 minutes. Certainly,
But he got a knock
time.
on. He got a knock in the first 15. I don't know how. It's very difficult to say or see when you're 70 metres away from where it happened. But he didn't look like the fine rugby player that we've seen him play 100 times.
Here's the thing, knock or no knock. He wasn't playing well.
No.
And no change was made until the 78th, 79th minute.
Right. Well, before it became
No,
too
they
irrelevant.
It's not like there weren't options for the Leinster coaching staff. They had Joey Carberry on the pitch, and they could have brought on Kirshner, who's a Springbok, or they could have brought on Ross Byrne, and they didn't. And the thing is, I mean, I think we've been really well coached this season. I think that Lancaster and Cullen have done really, really well, and we've said it a couple of times how well they've done. But if you're going to take the plaudits, you also have to take the brickbats when you get things wrong.
Is Sexton too big for the team?
No.
Were they afraid to take him off?
No, I
Rubbish.
think that's rubbish. No, I think that's rubbish.
I'd say it's more a case of Carberry didn't have a brilliant game up in Ulster. I'd say it's more a case of, look, he's Johnny Sexton. He'll pull it out of the bag.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, 9 times out of 10,
rather than
50% of Johnny Sexton is better than 100% of almost anyone else.
Yeah,
You know?
But that day it wasn't.
And
it wasn't ever looked at. It was never. He never looked like being taken off, and he obviously wasn't until. Plus the way they did it tactically, didn't they bring Kirshner on at 13 instead of 15, and they didn't. There's so many things that questionable calls that we could have changed the team about with, but we didn't. So some of the blame has to go into the coaching staff for sure. But the coaching staff weren't on the pitch knocking balls on and dropping them and,
turning it over 29
turning
times.
it over 29 times, kicking it on out in the full, doing all that horseshit stuff, and generally not being up for it. yes, you can maybe blame the coaching staff for not getting the mindset right, and part of that as well is the weird run-in we had since we lost to Claremont. Like we had the dead rubber of Ulster, we scraped by Glasgow, and the team was rotated a bit.
I think last Friday showed that it wasn't a dead rubber.
If we had beaten Ulster, we would have
obviously.
ended up playing the Ospreys.
Yeah.
And the Ospreys, as was seen in their match against Munster on Saturday, are in nowhere near the same class as Scarlets are.
And you get a team like Leinster.
So we said
even
that,
if
we
it's not
flagged that at
playing
the
well,
time.
and it didn't play well against Ulster. It didn't play well the week before against
But look, we've used
Glasgow in the dark. So if you had an extra game to try and get some form back into the team against easier opposition like Ospreys were, it might have made a difference. I don't know if it would have been enough for a final, but you might have had a chance.
I know,
against Scarlets, we didn't.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, look, go back over Leinster's history. You know, we often played teams in the semi-final or the quarter-final who clearly weren't up to it. I'm thinking of, say, Cardiff back in 2012, was it? In a quarter-final where we made mincemeat of them. Probably one of the weakest oppositions we've played in European knockout rugby.
Bath around the same time in the same.
Yeah, but no one remembers those matches. They only remember that Leinster were the European champions. You know, whereas you come up against a team that's like Scarlets, who probably could beat anyone on their day. Like they were very unlucky against Saracens.
That was the warning. That was the warning that people should have been looking at.
Look, we said it here. You know, 2 weeks ago we said all
Saracens
of these
are the
things.
best team in Europe, and Scarlets really frightened the bejesus out of them.
Yeah.
That should have been warning, but you know it wasn't, and it's just so frustrating because I mean, like we've seen incredible stuff all season from young players who've done great deeds. I mean, we scored 128 tries this season, but the last 2 games of the season,
But
a Leinster player scored 1 try in those 2 games, and we got a penalty try in the other.
Isn't that part of the problem though? Like we've got so much rotation in the squad, and the sad thing is that someone like Sexton comes back, he's guaranteed his place straight away. You're not going to say, oh yeah, Ross Byrne's been
Did I
playing
read
really
that
well.
was his
or
first Pro 12 game since January?
January, yeah, was. So we haven't had a consistency of selection like say the Scarlets have had, where
They don't have the same resources.
they
I
don't
presume.
exactly. But like it's a case of our big resources actually they can be a downside at times because we didn't build a cohesion of team
Continuity.
and players in the same position playing the same game, getting your combinations going, getting your. Yes, we had Ringrose and Henshaw trained all the way through the Six Nations. We had a few things like that, but playing for Leinster, we have.
But was that any
haven't
different
had
than
that.
say 2012?
Was there any
Yeah, I
different?
mean,
from
like
2012?
O'Driscoll was famous for never playing away
Driscoll,
games.
Darcy, Sexton, Redden would have all been absent, and probably in 2012,
Probably Luke Fitzgerald.
Luke Fitzgerald and Horgan. I mean, your entire backline was gone, and then they drop back in and play well. Now they are world class. They were genuinely world class players, whereas what we have at the moment is genuine potential. But you know, at the same time, you can't say, "Oh, we can't do it because of this thing," and then when we did this thing back in that day, we still won.
It's a contributory factor, is all I'm saying. You know, last year, for example, and a lot of this has been Stuart Lancaster. You could make a case for, oh well, he came into the England team at the right time, and he had to get rid of all the feckin' play acting that they were doing under Johnson, and he really got them respectful and humble and doing the right thing at the right times. But when he got to the business end of a World Cup, he didn't have the right stuff to close the deal. You know, and that, you know, we've got a similar case now with knockout matches. Now, I'm not putting this forward. I'm just saying that you could say that. What I would say is that last year in the Pro 12 final, we played almost exactly like we played from a mindset point of view in that semi-final. Stuart Lancaster hadn't even got Leo
Darkened our
Cullen's
towels.
phone number at that stage. So, you know, it's not, you can't put it on anybody. There's
But
so
like,
many.
Yeah, you see,
factors.
But we've gone through all the stats of all of the tries, 120 odd tries, and scoring an average 4 or 5 a game, whatever it was. But there's an awful lot of dross in the league. Like you have to weigh it up. Like there's 6 teams in that league that are pretty poor sides, and then the other 6 are pretty decent sides. And in those,
We only beat one of them away.
and we only beat one of them away.
Mhm.
So like, our victories are exaggerated because we go off and we hammer the 2 Italian teams or Dragons or you know whoever's down at the lower end of the table. But when the push comes to shove and we need a result over in Glasgow or we need to go up to Ulster to get a result, unfortunately this season we didn't do it.
No, and to a certain extent, I mean, yes, that's all true, and I agree with you entirely, and I think that's one of the reasons why we didn't have any success this season, or have ultimate success this season, because at the end of the day, Leinster players aren't thinking, well, we blooded new players and all
look,
that.
even-
They're thinking, this season's been a complete
But
failure,
Dave, even
which
if
is a good thing.
Even if you look at the European side of things, I mean, you know, we lost in France twice and we drew once in France. So like our record going away
That's
in
what I
the
mean,
big European games was poor. Okay, we got a home home quarter final and we beat Wasps in that in Viva, which was a great day. And maybe our expectations were raised a little bit too far, a bit too
We
high.
didn't disgrace ourselves in
No, we
Fran-
didn't.
in
No,
France.
absolutely not. But I think,
But-
like, if you look at the team on paper, there's a rake of those fellas, as you see. There's 5 of them, I think, going on the Lions tour. So obviously, they're 5 of the top 35 players on these islands. There's fellas that there's probably 12 of them are 12 of the top players in the country. So the quality is there, but it's when you scratch it and you take out a few injuries, like if you take Sean O'Brien out of it, you take Sexton's
Heaslip.
poor, if you Heaslip out of it, Cronin out of it, even though the guys that are below them are coming through and they look very good against the, as I said, the Edinburghs and the Dragons. When push comes to shove in the big games, they're getting there, but they're not there yet.
Well, that's, I mean,
Well, also
we have a lot of talented guys like Conan, Levy, and Van der Fleer. But if you take both of Sean O'Brien and Jamie Heaslip out of that back row, it's going to make a huge difference. It simply is.
Well, experience
I mean,
wise,
somebody suggests last week we'd be better off cutting Sean O'Brien and putting all our eggs in the two baskets.
That day looks like it's coming quicker.
It might be coming quick, but I can think of 29 reasons why it was a bad idea. Why it's not going to work
I
at the
agree
moment.
with you. Look, I'm just saying that Sean
As I
has
say
been
for
injured an
Jamie
awful
Heaslip.
lot. Like,
Yeah.
but Heaslip's 4 years older than O'Brien, so his days are
Yeah,
are
no, what
shorter.
I'm saying is, in terms of the quality that they have, the difference between them and the next guy is massive.
Absolutely.
And so that's why you stick with those guys. We're still not in a position where these young players that we're so happy about, and they are, we're still in a position where they're ready to push on to the next level. So we're not.
Well, they'll have learned from it. Here's the frustrating thing for them. They have they've worked really hard all year, put themselves in this position where they've got knockout games. That's a very hard, that's a hard slog to get to there.
Yeah.
And they'll remember next year when if they slog into the same position that, hold on, remember this last year? We did all the hard work and then we fucking blew it. Well, that's not going to happen.
Well, I
this year.
hope they do. I hope they remember.
Well, I heard O'Driscoll interviewed only recently, and he was talking about them winning the Celtic League back in
It
2001.
ruined them, yeah.
And I said it ruined that team because they just thought, like, they were amateurs getting paid at the time, right? This team is clearly different than that. But they thought, well, all we have to do is just we can continue going out for pints and replicating our behaviour, and we're going to win tournaments. And it's good that, this team sees, well, like, we didn't play well enough. And just because you could have scraped over the line against Scarlets and then you can have bad games and just, I remember when I was playing, we got to a final in Donnybrook and we'd won all our matches up to that point, but we didn't perform on the day because I would say 10, including myself, of the players on the team were looking. No, not at all. We're looking at the few fellas who were actually brilliant. We were looking at them to do something, and they didn't do it as they had done in all the other rounds, and we couldn't
pick up the slack.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was kind of, when you're looking at the Sextons, O'Brien would do it for you if he was there. Heaslip would do it for you. Cronin does it a lot. You take those, and Sexton didn't play well, and you take, those 4 or 5 lads out of...
That's a third of a team.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you see, here's the thing. We won't know until next year. Because we don't know how this will affect them. Hopefully it'll affect them.
Make them hungrier, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. That's how you tell the difference. That's how you tell a team that goes and loses and then comes back and hates losing so much that all it can do is win because losing is just not acceptable to it anymore. That's what Leinster became, and we hope that this team becomes that. And I would be confident that it will, but we won't know until next year. And I think that, as I said, I've said it at the beginning of or at the end of every season. We still need a defence coach. We need another coach in the mix.
Well, our defence was very poor.
It was very
really poor.
I think that no announcement was made on coaching, which is a bit strange. But you have Leo Cullen there as what I don't care what they call him. Leo Cullen there is the director of rugby. Stuart Lancaster's head coach. John Fogarty is scrum coach. Leo Cullen taking responsibility for the forward as well. That's all worked quite well.
Mm.
You do need a specialist for the defence.
But I'm not sure that I'd be too happy with if Leo is our line-out coach, which I'm sure he must be, because let's say that was one of his party tricks. The line-out was one of his areas of expertise, and mauling.
Yeah.
So we've been patchy in the maul all year, and we've been very patchy in the line-out.
Well, our line, I put Quinn Rue on the plane to Japan. I mean, in reality, I mean, the talk was that there was guys like Ross Maloney were gonna, if they played well, they were gonna go to Japan. Quinn Rue's going to Japan.
Yeah. So
No, our line out failed
the other thing is
repeatedly, and particularly down in Lyon in the semi-final, and the other night it wasn't very hot either.
no.
But like lads, at the start of the season, I mean, I know we're being very critical, and you know we had this a couple of seasons ago.
People
when
are after a loss.
They are. I know. I agree. And look, that's a good thing, I suppose. But you know, a couple of years ago, there was obviously the guillotine was out for Matt O'Connor, and you know, I remember thinking, well, the team hasn't been playing well under him, and we were brutal in the league that year. Okay, he was kind of papered over a little bit by the performance against Toulon in the semi-final, but I also was thinking, like, there's only 2 tournaments a year, and you can't expect the team to win one of those tournaments or 2 of those tournaments every season. Like, it just doesn't work like that, unfortunately. But this season, at the start of the year, would we have thought get to 2 semi-finals? That's a good return for our season, considering it's practically a new team.
I think if you added them together and divided by 2, yes. But well, no, I mean that's,
I know exactly what you mean.
I would have been very happy just getting out of our group in Europe after what happened last year. But I would have considered a Pro 12 final to be the return and accept.
Well,
the
seeing as no
correct
home
return.
team has ever lost a bloody semi-final before,
And we've been in the
until us.
final last year, and we're a better team this year than we are last year. I think we're a better team. We're younger. We're quicker. Like we were saying, what were the problems with the Leinster team last year? There was a lack of genuine power and pace in that team.
On the back three,
There's
especially.
power and pace everywhere in the Leinster squad back line now, but we still didn't push on. And at the beginning of the season, if you'd have said to me that we would have lost a home semi-final, I would have been quite disappointed in the Pro 12. I would have been pretty disappointed with that. Now, I'm very happy with how we went in Europe, and maybe that does assuage some of the things. I thought that we were superb against Wasps, and you know the callousness of the team. And that first 20 minutes against Claremont left us with a hill that was too high to climb, but we nearly did. So that's a great thing. But at the end of if you'd asked me at the beginning of the season, what would you consider acceptable out of our group and final? And we missed one of the goals.
Do you think that maybe there's a bit of... You just said we need a defence coach. Do you think maybe there's... Because, let's face it, Stuart Lancaster came in as our defence coach and got distracted.
Yeah.
You know, effectively.
Well, he came in as the senior coach. I mean, he came in...
He was replacing
He
Kurt,
came in
right?
at the time, at the same time as Kurt, but I don't think he was ever a defence coach.
But was it
really.
the same time, or was it? I mean, no one knows. Well, it certainly hasn't been explained. Or
Yeah, but like he's doing a lot of the stuff you would have expected Gervin Dempsey to do with the backs. And is anybody doing...
but is Gervin off to Bordeaux?
Well, apparently not. No,
I don't know.
apparently not.
He's going away with Ireland, so
Yeah.
Apparently not.
It's hard to know who's doing what. I mean, there's less information coming out of Leinster than there is out of, I don't know.
They're too depressed after last week.
Well, they're not. I mean, one can understand that, but you know, has it been a successful season? If you're a team like Leinster that judges itself on silverware, which they do, I mean, even if you think of even our main advertising campaign, Fuel the Fourth, is about winning something, and we haven't won anything. So, I would suggest that for Leinster, for the players, for the coaches, they would consider this to be a disappointing season.
Oh, undoubtedly. And especially, like, players always say it, to lose a semi-final is the worst loss of all. Like, you know, losing a final is bad, losing a semi-final is because you've done enough to get that far into the last four, and you've blown it at the second last hurdle. I mean, if you go out and you give your all in the final and you come up short, that's no disgrace. Yeah. But if you go out in a semi-final, especially in the manner we did, that's hard to take. It has to be hard to take for the team, the players, the management, everybody. I'm sure they took I'd hate to be at the meeting on the Monday.
But
it must have been pretty depressing.
But from a team's development point of view, it is a success. I mean, the likes of
Possibly.
Yeah.
Well, Rory O'Loughlin, Adam Byrne, Gary Ringrose, Joey
Maybe.
Carberry, Tyke Furlong, Levy, Conan,
Van der Vlier.
Van der Fleer. That's 8. Have
Oh, yeah,
all
I
come
mean-
through now. I'm including Ringrose there, but Ringrose got his first Irish cap this season. I know Van der Fleer got one last season, but these fellas are still very young. They've all come through the academy. They're, they're just establishing themselves as regular starters.
See,
Such
there's different metrics of success. So by that metric, in terms of are we better off have we set ourselves up to be better off next season than we have this season? Yes, we have.
I think so.
Because of that. But at the end of the day,
But teams go in cycles.
Oh,
and
they
you
do.
can't or very few teams can win at the bottom of their cycle, or when their cycle and when their curve is going upwards, or at the very start of the curve, which is this team is at. Like if you look at Munster now, Munster are probably a season or two ahead of us in their development.
Are they though?
I
don't
think
know
they
if
are.
they
I think they are, and I think now maybe they mightn't be as talented, and they mightn't have the same quality and strength and depth that Leinster do. But when you've got the two 15s against each other and they're both fully fit, I would suggest that the Munster team, like look at Conway. Conway's 2 or 3 or 4 years ahead of Adam Byrne. Adam Byrne's going to be a fine player, but he's not there yet. Conway, I mean, a few years. Like I remember going the night before I went over to Toulon for the semi final. Many years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. Conway, I went to Leinster A, Munster A, B&I Cup semi final, and Conway was on the bench for Munster at that game. Imagine that's in 2 or 3 seasons his progression from being on the bench for Munster
I mean,
A.
he'd also played in a European final at that stage for Leinster in the Amlin Challenge.
He had. But what I mean is, Dave, that his career was on a downward curve. That when he was at Munster, he wasn't getting the breaks, and all of a sudden, it's taken him that little bit of time to establish himself and to get his confidence back and start getting.
I have to say, I think we're kind of both in the same position on our curve, because Rassie Erasmus has only just come into Munster. They're only just last year they were shocking. We were both shocking, but you would have thought they had further to go than we have, and now it's the other way around. They're that little bit further. Okay, they were blown away by Saracens, but apart from that, they've had a pretty good season, and our coaching team is maybe a little bit longer there, apart from Lancaster, but I don't think
it's very hard to make to have any serious gauge of where Munster are right now because of what happened this year. I mean, it's very
That's
hard
true
to.
as well, yeah.
You can't. I mean, you can't. It's just impossible to say where.
Is it a burst of
is there
energy
how much of the emotional energy?
Yeah.
Is
You can't. Live
it's not
on
going to
it.
go forever.
But you can't even live on it now. I mean, it's 6
Well,
or 8
we know
months
on
ago.
Saturday.
Well, we know on Saturday, but they're ever getting to the final, Dave. They got to the semi-final of Europe. Like, that's a pretty good season. And, we can all have, negative views towards Munster. The reality is that they're after getting to the Pro 12 final and the European Cup semi-final. Like, that's a pretty successful
I would consider that to be a success. If that happened to Leinster, I would have considered it to be a successful season.
I would suggest to get into 2 semi-finals. And we had a poor display, but, often teams can get like we finished 10 points ahead of Scarlets in the league this year. We played very good rugby. We scored a whole load of tries. We were by far the informed team, I would suggest, in Europe for 4 months of the season. We went
the wrong 4 months, unfortunately.
but we went. I think 6 games in a row during the Six Nations and scored 5 points in each of those 6 games.
Yeah.
Well, that's a bit of what becoming a more experienced and a more streetwise team is about, is being able to manage peaks and troughs throughout the season. We managed the peaks well. We didn't quite so well manage the trough at the end of the season, and that was partially our fault because of the performance up in Ulster.
Well, I come back to continuity of selection. We just didn't have it, and we.
But is that because our star players, if you want to call them that, are getting that little bit older, and they
Injury prone.
need injury prone, and they need to be managed that little. Like there needs to be more intervention in their Leinster appearances. Like for instance, we saw a lot of Ringrose and Henshaw this season, whereas we saw very little of Sexton. I know he was injured for a bit. However, he didn't play, I think, from the Wasps match almost as up to the match in Lyon, and he didn't play from Lyon to the semi-final on
So
Friday.
that is whether that's being minded for the Lions or whether
No,
he's
I don't
just
think I don't believe it's minded
genuinely.
for the Lions. I think it's minding him, full stop, rather than minding him.
Well,
for the
I
Lions.
think that he has been minded for the Lions because that's why he's been minded. That's the next thing that he's minded for. I don't have a problem with that, by the way. I mean, if you're going to mind, he's been minded for the international team, and that's just a system we have. I mean, if it wasn't for that system, we wouldn't have him in the first place.
But he'd be back playing in France, and that's the reality.
and that's fine. But at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, it's still frustrating when a guy. I mean, that was his second Pro 12 game of the season of the year. Sorry.
Of 2017.
Yeah, that's really frustrating. I mean, and he's only played 2 or 3 games for Leinster.
But
over
is
the
that,
course
that
of
any,
the,
is that any different than when Drico played? When
Well, that's the question I'm asked. That's what I said earlier. I mean, we were in the same position. Like I said, in 2012, we were in the same position where we were taking an entire back line out, putting one in, then taking that out and putting the other one in, and we didn't seem to miss a step. Okay, we got beaten in the final.
We had a younger Issa Nasewa, and we had there was a few little things in there, but look,
But we got beaten in the final by a genuinely good Ospreys team, but it was in the final, and we won our home semi.
yeah, we have lost home finals on 2 occasions.
So I suppose the answer to the question is: was it a successful season? Yes, it was not, but it was not. But it was.
It was from a player development point of view. It was excellent.
Yeah, but player development doesn't
and
put
is-
trophies in the cabinet.
From a
Is that-
trophies in the cabinet
that-
point of view, it was.
is player development the raising debt really of Leinster?
From an IRA viewpoint, absolutely.
Well, they own it.
Yeah.
They essentially own Leinster.
Absolutely, it is. So,
We
job
have,
done.
But right, they won't put bums on seats.
Yeah,
No,
well,
I agree. I'm nearly
There's a
pointing
couple
out
of
the
things,
fact.
right? We've signed Fardy and
Low,
Lowe, so that's going to put bums on seats, sell season tickets, right?
we hope.
We hope. Well, it seems
The figure
they
was
seem to
released,
have-
which I thought was
yeah.
very peculiar.
11,000, yeah,
and
11,106.
Yeah, for last year, and they're nearly there already.
Well, see, the selling season thing
So-
is grand, but I mean, are people showing up? I mean, you would have thought that Leinster, particularly after Christmas, after all that people would come out and the numbers were diabolical all for 2017. So far.
We very, very rarely made it into 5 figures.
Yeah.
Like there was quite a few games now where, 10,000 and 200.
yeah,
Well, that's one aspect, right? We've got those 2 guys coming in, so that'll be good for season ticket
We
sales. We hope.
Do you think
you've
so?
you've also got all
Do you
these.
honestly think so? Like those people,
Yeah.
like your man is a brilliant player, but he's not a 30-time capped All Black.
he's not Dougie
True.
Howlett.
True.
Do you think Issa Nasiwa sold season
No.
tickets when he first arrived? I don't think he did.
No.
I think Rocky Elson might have done, but I don't think Issa Nasiwa did.
Well, okay.
Or Felipe did,
Yeah.
I would say.
I'll develop
Sorry.
the rest of the
Okay,
points
sorry, John,
anyway.
sorry.
Carry on.
So that's one thing. The other thing is all the guys we've mentioned, all 8 of them that we've developed, are going to contribute hugely to next season. So that's the development side, or to financially pull in the money from season tickets next season. This season we had the Wasps home quarter final, which, as we always say, that's the holy grail. Get a European game in there. We also got a home semi which pulls in.
Oh yeah, it's
you
an
know,
extra
it
home
was-
game. Yeah,
It was close. It was whatever it was. It was 17,000, 18,000.
There was a decent enough crowd actually once everybody sat down in their seats.
So, job done financially. Job done from a developmental point of view for the IRFU, and from a developmental point of view for Leinster Rugby. From a trophies in the cabinet, job not done because we didn't get any.
What did they say? Wasn't there a Fianna Fáil slogan once? Lot done, more to do.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I mean, you say it's job done financially. You can't be using extra games to cover up.
They don't budget for it. The IRF, you don't budget
Yeah,
for
what I'm saying,
home
and if you're
quarterfinals.
if you need those games to cover up for really poor regular season crowds, there's something wrong there.
But the fact remains that there's probably, let's say there was 11,000 or 30 or 12,000 season tickets this year.
They weren't all showing up for games.
No, it doesn't matter though.
Oh no,
They
I know.
bought their
What I'm
tickets.
saying is, I mean, they're still spending the ground,
And,
there's-
and I
there's-
would suggest that
Spending the ground doesn't all go to Leinster.
But I would
That's very
suggest
little
that-
of it does.
there was more than 1,000 season ticket holders didn't turn up, which would lead me to say picking a figure, 9,000 season tickets might have turned up.
Yeah.
But 1,000 or 2,000 walk-ups turned up.
But I think that figure was always pretty consistent. But the thing is, the extra walk-ups didn't turn up, but the extra season ticket holders didn't turn up. right? So you've got. I mean, with some of the crowds this year were really really shockingly poor. And the other side is, I mean, do you know what puts players? Unless you sign a superstar player, not going to put bums on seats. Do you know what puts bums on seats? Silverware. Following a winning team. People want to follow a winning team.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we scored 120 odd tries this year. We have one more to show, Dave.
Yeah. We scored.
It's 127 now, is it?
This was 128.
98. Whoa. That's a very...
Which is an astonishing number, actually, in fairness.
A very big number, and B, a very good computery number.
It is, actually, isn't it? And it was a nice try as well.
All because there's 8 bits in a byte.
That try.
How many bits in a nibble?
It
How many nibbles in a bit?
It reminded me of Luke Fitzgerald's try in the Aviva against Cardiff, actually.
Yeah.
It was almost like there
That's a
wasn't a hand,
no-look passing.
and there was hardly a hand touched on any of the Leinster lads that had the ball.
Where did it all go wrong, eh?
John Martin looking well there.
We
He's always on
tried...
the telly, isn't
Yeah.
he?
We tried to... Everybody has said it along the way. A lot of the papers are saying it, but we did try to force it wide too early without doing the hard graft. And that's one of the times it worked.
Yeah.
But from minute one, we seem to...
Yeah, there's one criticism that Leinster have received in this game, and it is valid, but I wonder, we've criticised them for not, using the space in behind and kicking into the space in behind. Was that because there was no confidence in our line-out?
I suspect so, because we just can't be guaranteed ball with it.
Yeah. There was acres of space in behind, and yet it was not used.
I could watch that all day, though.
We didn't have to, because it's all we have to watch until the season starts again.
There was some great bit of deception in there. There was,
Lovely
there was everything in there. Offloads, nice arc that Ringrose ran. Just didn't do it often enough.
But I thought, the amount of times you go to the RDS over the last 10 or more years, whatever they've been playing there, that we haven't quite been playing well, but we get our noses in front and we're rarely caught.
Yeah.
And I thought, in that particular instance, there was 25 or 30 minutes gone, we got in front.
What happened next? They scored straight away from pretty much immediately from the kickoff. That doesn't happen when Leinster are playing well. That doesn't happen to good Leinster teams.
Shouldn't happen to any team.
Yeah. But it's what happened. And, look, we can analyse this to death. And, it is disappointing. Nobody comes out of it too well. Players, coaches. And as you say, you can have two views on how our season finished. Well, did it finish well? Did it not? The truth is somewhere, like in every case, somewhere in between.
Well, there is a huge element.
But just to say that, whatever happened this season, I think we're really well set up for next season. Like you say, James Lowe is coming in. He's not a huge star name, but we've seen him play, and we know just how good this guy actually is and how good he could be for Leinster. Fardy's coming in again, not a star name, but we don't need a star
World Cup
name.
finalist.
Yeah, he's a workhorse. He's an absolute dog, and we need that. So, I would expect us to win everything next year, and the British and Irish Cup, and the ladies win the Interpro, and Kilmine win the Metropolitan Cup, and Tulla win the Towns Cup.
Perfect season.
Yeah.
Did you have a few questions on Facebook?
Well, we had
or
we questions from Colin Meehan, who got in touch with us. Firstly, wondering where the hell we were last week. We were just
Washing our hair.
Washing our hair. He wanted to know what is the weakest part of Leinster's team, which is a good question actually, in terms of because I think there's been queries and questions about our second row for the last year and a half.
Hookers, anyone?
I would suggest longer. I would say since Leo left.
Yeah. I thought we put a bit of a sticking plaster over it with Triggs. Seemed to do well-ish, but I do think second row is the issue for us.
Well, we've got a lot of players who are just below the level we need. But are pretty good. So we've got like Nagel, Carney.
We're not a really good Pro 12 lots.
Yeah. So now we've got James Ryan coming in for his first proper season. I think he's been promoted straight from not having played a game all season into the full team.
He could be doing a Michael Bent or Luke Fitzgerald.
And he could be getting capped in Japan before he even plays for Leinster. We've got Fardy coming in, and we've still got Toner, who's having a bit of a dip in form currently, but
He's allowed.
Yeah, he's due a rest, so he could come back strongly.
We're used to having locks of the quality going back to when Leo Cullen played there, Bob Casey. Then
Mallow
after
Kelly.
them, Mallow Kelly was nearly 100 caps or over 100 caps for Ireland, played in 2 or 3 Lions tours.
Yeah.
Then I'm not
One
going
of
to
the
go
best locks
into the
ever.
Brad Thorne, the Nathan Hines. Leo comes back. Like we had, our second row was somebody that you'd rely on, that you'd have. This guy is one of the leaders within the team and somebody who is tough as teak and is not going to take a backward step. And probably for the last 4 seasons, there's been no one in the same quality. Like Devon Toner is a fine player, but he's an
We
Irish
found it very
international.
hard to get
But
somebody to stand beside him.
well,
No, I mean to stand. I mean in the stand with the team. That second lock position has been a problem for us for a while. Sykes didn't work out.
Yep.
Douglas didn't work out.
Yep.
We had what's his name, Brad Thorne, but that was on a short term thing.
that did work out.
That did work out, but it was
That's
a
the
short,
last thing that did work out,
Yeah,
and that's 5 years ago.
Yeah, but again, it was a short term thing. Triggs did well. I thought he was. He was certainly a great servant to the club.
Yeah.
But
But the fact that we have
but
nobody
even
else,
before that, you had jokers like Bryce Williams, Adam
Owen
Byrne,
Finnegan, anyone?
Owen Finnegan. What was that American guy? Aaron somebody or other, Goldman.
That's going
or-
back a long time.
Yeah, we've signed a few dodgy ones, but we do. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I hope
Cameron Jowett?
Cameron,
Anyone?
but he was more of a six.
Back row.
Yeah, but what doesn't help, and you
6'6",
alluded to it. What doesn't help our locks is the fact that none of our hookers seem to be able to hit a cow's arse with a banjo.
Yeah, I think behind Cronin is a great player. If we had another, if Strauss was back in the form, or maybe Tracy will come through, but we don't have anybody right there right now that's of comparable quality to Cronin.
No,
And even
I've
Cronin's
never tried to
down-
hit a cow's arse with a banjo. But one drunken night, I did hit a cow's arse with a bazooki, just to show how easy it is. And it's a stringed instrument.
Fair enough.
It is really easy to hit a cow's arse with a banjo, but none of our hookers seem to be able to manage it.
Yeah. So there also scrum half behind Luke McGrath, who is, let's face it, callow enough himself, even though he's got over 100 Leinster caps.
Yeah.
I think I heard. We've got a bit of a vacuum there. Gibson Park seems to look good against some of the iffier teams, and he comes on at the end of the game, and if a game is won, he'll make it one.
Exactly as he did against Saints over in
Exactly.
Northampton.
He seems to play well against in
the
Super
game
Rugby
is
type
won.
situations.
The game is
Yeah.
won. You can fling the ball around. We've scored
Yeah.
5 tries, and he'll pop up on the wing and score one as well.
But obviously losing Boss and Redden at the same time is going to leave a bit of a vacuum.
I'm going to go. I said it before, and I'm going to do it. I told you so. I didn't want to sign. Nothing against Gibson Park. I just didn't want to sign that player. I didn't think we needed it. I thought we had a talented secondary scrum half in Nick McCarthy. I thought we needed a guy who was maybe 28, who played 200 first class
What
games
about
somewhere.
someone who's 38, Dave?
No.
Who's coming up for?
I have no problem as long as he apologises in his first press conference. He's more than welcome to Leinster. All he has to do is apologise.
Anyway, moving very swiftly along.
Well, of course, there's a big game next weekend. Munster do take on the Scarlets in the Aviva Stadium. I'd
So
say
you're dressed in red
I am,
for the
yes,
occasion.
yeah. Well, I'm very much on the fence. But one thing I'd imagine that the Pro 12 organisers were doing on Saturday morning was praying for a
Selling
Munster.
tickets.
We're saying praying for a Munster victory, because if it had been 2 Welsh teams in the final, they would have been left with a lot of empty green seats.
And they would have been. I think they're going to do all right out of it. I think it'll be a full house.
Oh yeah, I'd say
Or
so.
near
But
enough
Munster
to
in
it
it anyway.
From what I'm reading online, Scarlets seem to be as many as can travel are travelling.
Yeah, but that's going to be 4,000. Do you know?
Yeah.
what
Oh
I
yeah.
mean? Like,
Jeez, 4,000 would be incredible. Sure, they don't
of
get
course
much
it
more
would,
at
John,
home.
but the place holds 50 fucking thousand.
I know that.
They're going to do their best anyway. So I think that here's the thing. If Scarlets play the way they played against us, they'll win.
Yeah.
They could easily do.
I mean,
But
because that.
I think Munster have the foil for them now. I think the two of them are going to
the
go.
foil for Saracens.
Well, I think they're going to go at each other in a similar way. I
Well,
think
Munster were beaten by Scarlets in Thomond.
in
earlier
Thomond
on,
Park,
so-
I know, and that'll give them more sauce. Munster
And-
love it when they're
and
bitter.
just as we were talking about,
No, sorry. I just want to nail that. We're better when we're bitter. That was said by a world class player in a world class team, right? We're better
But
when we're
it's
bitter
it's a psyche.
is meaningless when it's Niall Ronan or when it's Dave O'Callaghan. We're better when we're bitter. No, you're not. You're shit. You're better when you're bitter when it's Donegal Callaghan, Paul O'Connell, Alan Quinlan, Dennis Leamy, and Anthony Foley as your back five. Right. So let's just nail this better when we're bitter. Bollocks, where it's there. It's trite, can't. Carry on.
Okay. Pity you don't feel strongly about it, Dave. Anyway.
Well, I was going to say that if you look at our star players, not performers, certainly weren't star performers last weekend, but our star players, they all seemed to look, I don't know whether they were jaded or what they were, didn't play enough rugby to be jaded, but they certainly didn't perform.
No.
And I would suggest, though, that some of the Munster star players in their forward pack didn't have big games. CJ Sandler didn't look like he was at the races in that match.
Well, that's the advantage. You see, that's where we shot ourselves in the foot against Ulster. CJ Sandler didn't need to be at his best, or any of their star players didn't need to be at the best to overcome a relatively poor Ospreys team.
Mm-hmm.
But they've had that game; they've got it out of their system.
Oh, Munster could easily
and you can
slip
play
up.
yourself back into form, and they gave themselves that opportunity.
Now,
In fairness, I've been waiting for Munster to run out of steam since a month after Anthony Foley died. I was
I bet you
waiting
that's not
for it to
even
happen.
mentioned.
And it's,
They'd be
I'm sure
mentioned.
it isn't.
It can't be
I'm
mentioned.
not.
It's
They
just
never stop.
I'm sorry for
in
mentioning...
the dressing room, Dave.
Yes.
I'm talking about prior to
All right.
that would not. Fellas on the terrace, of course, are going to. Jesus, isn't it
Well,
terrible?
the players are talking about it in interviews all the time. They're
They're
talking
being
about
asked
it this
about
week.
it. They're being
Well,
asked.
possibly. I mean, you can't not answer a question. That's a fair point. I agree.
I would suggest, though, in the changing room, there's nothing up on the wall.
Well, the reason I'd be worried about that is what you're saying is fair enough. If they've been asked about it, then they have to answer it. The only thing is, emotional exhaustion can be an issue. If you go to the well too many times, if they're not going, then that's
the
fine.
message becomes just
Meaningless.
wallpaper.
Yeah, it does, and that's becomes like elevator music.
I don't think they've been trading on that emotion for a long time. I
Can't.
think that's gone since October, November.
Correct.
But and I'm not saying that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that I've been waiting for them to run out of steam, not because of anything to do with that incident, but just because I think they've been playing above themselves since about that time. They really have. They've gelled as a team, and they seem to be, considering a brand new coaching structure, they seem to be really buying into it all.
This is, I know you're going to
And
roll
I
your
keep-
eyes when I say this.
I keep
but
waiting for them to be found out, and they haven't been.
If you have the opportunity to refresh your team with additional foreign resources, I mean, which they've had, which the other teams in Ireland haven't had, then it's easier to keep
The
rolling
lads
along.
in the IRFU had a bit of a whip around.
Well, it doesn't matter where they came
They
from. I
gave
mean,
them a dig out.
at the end of that's fair enough and fair play to them. But I mean, you're talking about 10 players. You're talking about 6 additional players, John, that Leinster didn't have, or Ulster didn't have, or Connacht didn't have. It's
Fair
easy
enough.
to keep the bandwagon rolling when you've got a bloody outboard motor in the back.
Yeah.
So
They made their decision anyway. They've managed to get rid of Francis Ciali
Yeah,
for next season.
they
They've
kept the injury replacement.
Yeah, this is unusual, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
Well, maybe he's cheaper. I don't know.
he's cheaper and he fits in with their.
Yeah, his style
psyche.
of play is more in line with
Agricultural.
Yeah, no. Munster have always liked a guy Munster have always been successful. Sorry, not necessarily like. Munster have always been successful with a guy who can hit it up in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
They've always liked to sign fancy centres, but really the guys who are successful for them are Trevor
And
Halstead's.
Pokey.
Yeah.
You know what? Like Maffey was the stepper and
Yeah.
with all the tricks, and even Lalalu or Lalala.
La.
Like all these guys would try and
Yeah.
skip treble skip
Skip passes.
passes.
Yeah.
Rather than, as you say, the Halsteads and the Topokis.
Who just go hard up the inside channels, and that's where Munster have always been successful. Is with guys like that, or guys like even Ian Dowling, for example, who fulfilled that role as well, slightly further out, but he went hard and created. I used to make the joke that Ian Dowling wasn't a winger; he was a mobile mall platform. But that was successful for them. They needed somebody who was able to hold up the ball outside, because Munster's strength at that time was their world class pack. So
what
they
you're
needed a
saying
guy who was
is-
able to create more opportunities for that pack to go one out, around the corner, and that's what he did really well for Munster. But they've always had this obsession about signing fancy Dan centres when really what they need is Trevor Halstead Mark II, and I think Taute gives them Trevor Halstead Mark II.
So what you're saying is Munster like it hard up the inside.
They do like it hard on the inside, yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Well, I mean, they're going to get a bit of flair next season. Like they brought back JJ Hanrahan as well,
yeah.
so I presume he's going to play in the centre because they have
Nobody else to play.
Hmm?
Well, I mean, it's interesting actually.
And they've
They're
got
actually-
Farrell, Chris Farrell, big tall lad.
they're strong at 10,
Ulster.
12, 13 next year because they've
Yeah.
Tyler Blaine, they've re-signed Ian Keatley, they've JJ Hanrahan,
Hanrahan.
they've Chris Farrell, they've Taute,
Scarrow.
they've Scannell.
Scannell, rather.
So there's
Scarrow.
actually a lot of strength there.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, they were quite callow there for a couple of seasons, weren't they?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, well, yeah.
But like they seem to, as you said, they won New Zealand. They seem to have an All Black playing in there for the last few years, but with no one else around them.
Yeah.
And he kind of didn't suit their style of play. He was a bit esoteric for them.
Although, in fairness, he set up a fantastic try. Zebo's try.
Oh, yeah,
was-
he's a great
He's
player.
a fantastic
but,
player.
But,
Don't
you
get me
know,
wrong.
but like they had so much possession in that match against the Ospreys that they should have won by 40 or 50 points.
I mean, Saidi is a great player, but I mean, certain players fit in with certain clubs, and I don't think he was a Munster style. He was the kind of centre Munster like to sign, but he's not the kind of centre Munster should sign.
So who's going to win next week?
I think one of the teams that traditionally wears red will win.
Well, I think the Scarlets will. I think the Scarlets have. I think they're a bit 1 year further than.
Put it down the track.
I think Scarlets
Coming
have.
in under the radar
I think
for sure.
Scarlets have what we always
They
say
were.
is very important: momentum.
Yeah.
But Munster are at home. It's the Aviva Stadium. Most of
It'll
their
be
players
red.
know really, really well. It'll be red, but that won't worry the Scarlets. They just pretend they're all our fans. It's actually a very, very close game to call.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it could go either
It
way.
could
I
go
think
either way.
Munster, I hope Munster do it.
I mean, there's been a certain amount of chatter about the referee.
I want. Yeah, well, that's true. He is a Scarlet.
He is
And
from
his-
Carmarthenshire
His nephew plays for the.
for the Scarlets. However, if I were choosing the referee and I were, if Leinster were playing Scarlets in the
I
final,
want Nigel.
I would have absolutely no problems with Nigel,
Well, I suppose before we go, we have to. There
who
was, a,
traditionally wear red.
there was a few fellas that were playing that were talking out for Leinster there for the last
Yeah.
time. We have spoken about most of them prior to this, but one lad that we weren't sure what was going to happen to him was Triggs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Obviously,
strange, yeah.
he's had a
Retiring.
terrible tragedy in
Mm-hmm.
his personal life this season, but we've already spoken about that. However, he's going to walk away from Leinster now, and I was surprised to read his comments about falling out of love with the game of rugby, and
Yeah.
it wasn't the game that he had started playing and enjoying your
It's an
victories.
inevitability of
going out for-
professionalism.
It is, but it's sad that something that made rugby very special is kind of gone from that. Like we as spectators, not playing anymore, just watching it, still go for our pints and enjoy all that aspect of the game. But it's sad that the players are so regimented in their regimes that they.
Have to be.
Yes, but even after a match that you can't have 1 pint with your opposition in the bar,
Yeah,
that it's all very in for a quick ice bath, back on the bus to get to the airport, to fly home, so that you're up and at them tomorrow for your video analysis session back in
it is the
Wales or in Ireland.
as you say, John, it's the inevitable consequence of professionalism. It's still sad though. Its passing is still sad. It is something that's important in the game, or was important in the game, that's been lost, and that's always sad.
It's I think what made rugby very unique and very special was that you could beat 7 shades off each other on the pitch, and
Go
once you
for a
went
pint.
off, there was that tradition of.
Geez, you never played junior football in Cavan, obviously.
Well, here's
Well,
the other
I
thing.
just think that say there's probably an element of that in every sport, but the fact is that there was certainly no one put in a boot and driven away. Whereas that happens most weekends in Cavan.
No, that's in Wicklow. I want
Well,
to point out
I
that's
think
in
it's
Wicklow.
both counties.
No, Wicklow.
Well, the
Put it in the
inevitability.
trailer in Cavan.
The inevitability of that kind of stuff happening, and also the preparation for the following week, literally does start after the game.
yeah.
Because you're counting the minutes to the next game and managing the players, and
Yeah, no, I
You
mean
know.
it's just amazing how it has changed in say the 20 years of professionalism.
yeah,
And someone like Triggs has been there for a lot of those 20 years and has seen the mammoth changes. Like, I think I heard Keith Woods talking about it, and he said, Rassie O'Driscoll, in his first Lions test, he said he had 4 bottles of beer on the Tuesday night before the first test in Brisbane, where he scored that brilliant try.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you probably wouldn't have 4 bottles of beer in the entire season nowadays.
And your press manager would change them to strolls.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, Triggs is, one of the last of a generation who might span the professional amateur divide, and it's sad to see him go. He was a great guy around the place. He was a nice lad. Yeah, he'll be missed. It's just unfortunate that he feels that way about that he's.
But I think he was very impressed, and like he played in a lot of clubs, and he spoke very highly of Leinster.
Yeah, nice to hear.
It was nice to hear. Yeah. So obviously we will we'll miss him around.
Oh yeah, certainly.
And there's obviously a few other lads like
Rossi
Rossi's going. He got
getting
a good
his trip
send
with
off.
the Barbarians.
Mm-hmm.
Is he playing Ulster, the Barbarians?
Ulster in
Yeah,
England.
Ulster in England. Yeah,
And then you have
revenge for taking him.
Kirshner's going.
Yeah,
He's going to
To
the
the
Dragons.
Dragons.
Yes.
Dom Ryan. I don't know whether he's picked up a contract elsewhere.
I would suggest he'd have no problems picking up a contract. We just don't know where, which would lead me to think might be France, if it hasn't been announced.
Hasn't been announced anyway, as far as I heard.
Yeah,
Let me see anyone.
not that I can think of.
I'm sure there might be 1 or 2 other lads leaving. But anyway, the best of luck to them, and thanks very much for all of their dedication and hard work to Leinster. Anyway, boys, as ever, thanks a million, and thanks very much for watching. Cheers.